Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Matters of social interest. What is self-rule? In the following pages, Perival tackles some 13 items of social interest. That means also that the messages are going to be averaging less than 3 pages only. Nowadays, everybody is talking about Swadeshi and Swarajyam. Swadeshi means anything of one's own country, and Swarajyam means self-rule. But in style, dress and attitude, everyone is trying to copy the white man or the West. Till such behavior persists, we are only Paradeshi, and our country is a slave colony only. Paradesi literally means foreigner, but it's a word used disparagingly. The person is pitied as something less than normal. If you have to get real self-rule, we have to study as to how was our country's people's culture and tradition of yore and adopt them once again. Our old habits, traditions, behavior, patterns and dharmas have to be retained. It is wrong to copy the behavior of the rest of the world. Once we have subjugated ourselves to their habits and way of life, how does it matter whether we have home rule or foreign rule? If it is a true Swarajya, if our legislatures and parliament were independent, we should be deliberating as to how our country's Dharma Rajyam was and dwell deep into ways and means of re-establishing the same. We have a culture and civilization of our own. You may be tempted to say, why should we waste our time in trying to retain the old ways? Let the bygones be bygones. Why should we bother about such things? My answer is that I am not saying this just because it is our past, as I would if I was simply too attached with me and mine. Many old cultures and civilizations have been washed away by time and tide. But our culture has stood the test of time for many thousands of years like a weather-beaten rock. There is something of value in it. We should live by it. We should live as ourselves. Instead of blindly copying others, all our strength and energy should be directed towards recreating the original true Indianness in us for others to emulate. Our people in the Westerners' garb enact the laws and we are slaves to them. Where is the essence of freedom in this? If we give votes to people who do not live by our culture and sampradaya, are we not slaves still? Our culture is one in which even worldly affairs were deeply rooted in. The individual, humanness and God consciousness nexus. We should first recognize that our own freedom is in identifying this. Then we should be working towards making highest individual morality as the basic qualification in private and public life. We should position people in power only, those who preach what they practice. Instead of accepting corruption as a way of life, we should accept that it is possible to live by dharma. Dharmam should be accepted as workable in the individual, in education, in trade and commerce, in government, and in all walks of life. It should be demonstrated as workable and feasible. Automatically, we will influence the world to sit up and take notice. For doing so, we should know our Dharma Shastras. For this, there are many guidebooks. I am able to talk about this because of the existence of such reference books. Otherwise, all this could have been forgotten and lost track of. All the people have to think and opt for the freedom of uncorruptibility instead of feeling that corruption is unavoidable. If you feel that corruption is unavoidable, where is the freedom of choice? Why not send only known, honest and sincere persons of impeccable character to legislatures. I pray to God, Parameshwara, to make Dharma a functional proposition in India to become a direction finder for the whole world. Morality, love and governance. The king is the cause for morality. Raja Dharmasya Karnam, says an old saying. Let us see as to what is the meaning of this. First, what is dharmam? All of us born as a human being have hunger and thirst. We all need a place to live in. We have to protect ourselves from cold and the heat of the sun. For these two reasons, as well as to be presentable in society, we need to clothe ourselves. We have to arrange for these basic necessities. Other than these essentials, we have to fulfill certain duties towards others. Since we are born in some families, we have to look after the family's requirements. After we select a life partner, we have the duty to look after that partner and the children born of such union. Then there are duties towards the elders of the family, society and the nation. These duties could be met within so many ways. Duties for oneself and one's family could be in conflict sometimes. This could be at variance when it comes to duties towards the society and the nation at times. So, instead of doing whatever appeals to one's mind temporarily, we have to do these duties without hurting anyone. Our attitudes and behavior should not be corrupted by desire and anger. These duties can be fulfilled without harming others while simultaneously ennobling oneself. To function like this in the world and work towards personal and public advancement, it's called dharmam. A society made of many such individuals has to be kept without mutual clash of interest and made to function without conflicts. That is the job of the government. Citizens' life has to be safeguarded, organized and made smooth, and each individual has to be enabled to grow to this fullest potential. That is why it is said that the king or the government has the task of ensuring fairness at the collective level too. Hence it is said that Raja Dharmasya Karnam. Government and individuals have many duties and work towards fulfilling these duties. Whatever the work, the basic aim should be rooted in love. When there is any action, there is a doer of the action and there is also someone whom that action will affect. So while taking any action, you have to consider the effect on the individual and others, and that consideration should be based in love. All actions should be born out of love. In worldly affairs, even wars may become unavoidable. Some people may have to be punished sometimes, but while punishing a criminal and while fighting a battle, we must not give in to vindictiveness and hate, but function with fairness and love. Whatever be the type of work, the mind should be full of love and nothing else. There is a qualitative difference between this love that I am talking about and the ahimsa as taught by Buddha and Mahatma Gandhi. Ahimsa is only a negative concept not to hurt others, whereas love is a positive decision to help others. When you function with love, there may be occasions when himsa is unavoidable and may be necessary, like when punishing a culprit. Even with him, we should have only love. We should not only look at the need to protect the society from him, but also look at the need to protect him from himself and the need to save him from further deterioration. We can take any action as considered necessary for the sake of the society's welfare. in a given situation by first setting aside the feelings of desire, anger, hate, and duplicity from our heart. If love becomes the guiding principle, all the evil of this world can be annulled. This is not my message, but the essence of the Upadesha from all the great saints, rishis, and mahatmas of this nation. Methods of reducing crimes. What is the government for? In a country, people with more power may dominate others with less power. Majority could harass the minority. A crowd could force a single individual to part with his property and occupy it. To prevent such things from happening and ensure law and order is the job of a government. To ensure this, it has powers to enact laws and punish those who transgress those laws. Many people are deterred from doing wrong things because of this power of the government. Government can give a greater punishment to the person than the hurt or harassment he caused. If he steals ₹100, the thief could be jailed. Greater punishment could be given for repetition or more serious crimes. The deterrence is caused by the severity and promptness of the punishment. There is a very apt proverb about this which says that justice delayed is justice denied. Looking at the human nature, we have to accept this deterrence power of the government, which has to be prompt, but simultaneously government should try and develop another related aspect too. It is one thing to react after the event of crime and imparting deterrent punishment to prevent such happenings. Proactively, governments could give attention to ways and means of preventing the birth of criminal thoughts. First, someone commits a crime, followed by government's reaction to impart deterrent punishment is okay at the practical level of governance as per the dictates of our Arthashastras too, but the fact has to be accepted at least at the theoretical level that rules of Arthashastras have to be secondary to the rules of Dharmashastras. For this, the government should take steps to encourage the creation of national atmosphere of high morality. This will enable coming into being of an environment where criminal mentality will dissipate. If there are more facilities to spread the message of Dharma and more such persons knowledgeable in Dharma come into being, the population will have role models to emulate. Such people will encourage peace and morality by being personal examples. Conflicts, skirmishes, and crimes will automatically come down. For this, the political, executive, bureaucratic, and judiciary arms of the government should be manned by people of impeccable moral standards. The common man should get the feeling that he is governed by people who are not selfishly motivated but citizen friendly. To borrow a famous cliché, that will be a government of the people, for the people, by the people. People will accept and abide with the words of such rulers. Creation of such crime-free environment cannot be done by the government alone. People of high moral fiber should extend a helping hand too. The government should enable this. The government should pay more attention to making the public committed to high moral standards than only increasing, financing, and refurbishing the police force, jails, and judiciary. Instead of those who make a business out of giving moral lectures, people who are involved in genuine social service uncaring for personal benefits with helping others as the only motive should be encouraged by recognition and awards. This will motivate others. To live a life of high morality is more powerful than preaching. Increase in the number of courts of justice means that justice is declining. Instead of the number of temples and shrines should be increased. This will ensure greater peace and amity. The Rajas of Ur constructed more temples than courts of justice. They repaired and refurbished the old ones. In those temples, all arts and culture were divinized and were presented as an offering to God. People frequented the temple functions for devotion, entertainment as well as knowledge of dharma. In the bargain, people were more calm, peaceful, and contented. Social unrest and conflicts were mostly unheard of, at least in India, before the Muslim invasions of India and British dominance. Instead of more acts of law, people should be directed towards the right path and thereby reduce the opportunities of contemplating crime. The process is preferable to reducing crime by deterrent punishment. The peace so created will be more long lasting by government recognition and rewarding of persons of high moral values. The value systems in the population will thrive. This indirect but effective method of management of governance is what is meant by the proverb which says, "Government governs best is the one that governs least." True education. It has been practically experienced that greater the peace of mind, greater the level of happiness. That is also the highest goal of human endeavor. When the peace of mind is lost, it results in unhappiness. When people try to do away with their own unhappiness, they create the same in others. Thus, when everybody make efforts to reduce their own unhappiness, they end up in causing sadness in others. This becomes multidimensional with the increase in the number of people involved. This results in confusion and chaos in the society. To re-establish peace and quiet, this necessitates governmental involvement. They take action by the acts of law using the police force, but the real solution to the problem can only accrue when people are able to divert their minds away from sensations and have a semblance of control over their minds. The mass can be guarded from being exposed to a feeling of imagined deprivation and sadness. Thus, they in turn will be prevented from causing unhappiness to others. This can only be achieved by good education, which causes inner equanimity in man at the micro level and outer peacefulness in society at the macro level. Such peace has been intrinsically prevalent in India for aeons of time. The education in Bharat, that is India, has always been aimed towards making peace of mind available to the masses. There is nothing wrong in expanding scientific knowledge in ever advanced areas, but the benefits out of such knowledge to the society should be available only in its disciplined utilization. Only then the individual and the nation can attain a high level of peace and prosperity. If you run after instant gratification of the senses, however advanced the education and scientific knowledge, it can only increase bad thoughts and unclean desires. This will lead to problems galore. True education is one that helps towards Atma Jnana, that is self-knowledge. At the outer worldly level, self-knowledge increases man's efficiency in all his actions. At the inner level, it raises man from inane ordinary existence to effulgent immorality. The true and real education gains to man that highest utility not available in anything worldly. All other education gives worldly benefits. Even that education can progressively take man towards divinity. But generally, fruit of education is wrongly constructed to be ability or access to get more and more money or comforts for oneself and one's family. I am not saying that money is useless. It has its purpose. Money can be used to do dharmam, such as giving alms, looking after poor relatives, caring for guests, one's family and self. Even worldly dharma is contributory for attaining Brahmagyana. By sincerely doing one's duties, by obedience to God, by constant endeavor, one can realize Atmagyana, says Adi Shankara. Education that gives this supreme knowledge is called Paravidya. All other education comes under the name Aparavidya. Paravidya or Brahmagyana imparts that knowledge of the purest truth directly, which is completely hidden from us now. It removes the present darkness of not comprehending. That which is not discernible to the five senses now can be understood only through Vedas and Smritis. Knowledge is obtained by the process of direct observation, detection, investigation, examination, perception, logical deduction, and such. Adi Shankara adds Vedas and personal experience or Anubhava or Anubhuti as two additional means of obtaining knowledge. Modern education pays sole attention to objective knowledge gained through the five senses, aided by human capacity for deduction and comprehension. It is useful in many ways, but it ignores the important aspect of subjective knowledge beyond human comprehension. Both types of education are required. Objective knowledge is required for this worldly life and the subjective knowledge for the life beyond life. In making a mix of these two types of education, we have to be extremely careful. Our inner cleanliness, purity, and morality should be a part and parcel of education. All matters of sensual titillation should have no place in the syllabus. If we adopt wholesale Western dress, style, attitude, food, and speech, we will gradually become alien to our own culture and value systems. We will not only hurt ourselves but harm the nation's future. In this country, nowadays, people are moving away from our character, culture, discipline, and belief in daily prayers to God, visit to temples, meditation, yoga, and so on. They are not only learning about modern sciences but adopting the Western way of life to the detriment of one's own. This should be a matter of concern to all national leaders. It is our foremost duty to enable the children of this country to know about the avenues for Atma Jnana and not become alien to one's own hereditary cultural assets. As otherwise, India will become equally a prey to the modern ills of materialism and moral degradation. Problems in education. The most important usefulness of education is to inculcate humility in man. In older times, students were called Vinayan, that is, a person with a quality of humbleness. Education without humility is not education at all. The first lesson to be learnt is self control. A proud person can never learn anything. In practical life, it is seen that uneducated tribals do not seem to have many bad habits. The word many should be read as any. There are no magistrate courts and high courts in the tribal areas because there are no crimes. Where there are plenty of schools, colleges, and universities, the crime rate is on the increase. With more education, there seems to be more expertise in duplicity, fraud, and scams. The main purpose of education is to get to know God while sustaining oneself in life. But nowadays, mostly educated people lack devotion. Is this not very peculiar? Educated people should be a repository of good habits and humility. Compared to the past, now there is more education and more educational institutions. To get admission in schools is a huge problem. One of the first concerns on attaining parenthood is to start worrying about the child's education. Schools run shift systems to cater for the increased student population. Still, the fruit of education, that is Vinayam, is more noticeable by its absence. The women of this nation have the intrinsic quality of Adakkam. Adakkam is a one word for a combination of virtue, not non-obtrusiveness, decency, and delicacy. As a result of education, they should be more so, but no, as even this essential quality of Indian womanhood has been done away with by this so-called education. Education, which should be additive, has become subtractive of good qualities. Why? What is the reason for this state of affairs? Let us analyze this. How should the education be? How to study? How should the students behave? How should the teachers behave? These questions are answered in Shastras quite elaborately. One of the initial directions is Ilamaril Kal, that is, learn when young. That is Brahmacharya Ashrama or student days. This is the period when the child grows up to be capable of living away from his parents and has started asking questions about life, but before marriageable age. He goes to a guru and lives with him. The student called Sishya goes and begs for alms from a number of households and brings it home to the guru's wife to cook for the whole lot of them in the Gurukulam. In begging, his pride dwindles and the quality of humbleness accrues. He looks up to his teacher and his wife with respect and love. In the brahmachari's mind, there is an acceptance that Guru knows what he teaches. Since the students were living with him, the Guru lived a life of absolute purity, earning the students' respect and admiration. Nowadays, this Guru Bhakti, that is, regards and respect for the teacher, is totally lacking. Now, the relationship between teacher and student, if at all it can be called a relationship, is more of completing the minimal formalities. It goes down to the level of the student with a knife in his hands asking the teacher a day or two before the exam, "Baby, are you going to hand over the question paper quietly or are you getting swiped? Books are okay. Syllabus is all right. Proper medicine can become poison if you do not restrict yourself to the proper diet." Similarly, with the modern education system, Guru Bhakti is woefully absent. Noble sentiments and practices are going by default. We should spin cotton threads in a charka. We should wear khadar cloth. We should eat hand-beaten rice instead of milled rice. are all good to hear, not for doing really. Even now we see some people claiming, I wear only khadar clothes, I eat only hand-beaten rice. These are only status symbols for some. Similarly, I have no hope of bringing back Gurukula system of education. It will be very good if we can, but I am saying all this so that it is not totally forgotten that there was such a system in this country. Like a museum piece, there should be at least some places where such a system must continue. At least the root origin should be protected. The love and respect that evolves towards the teacher in the Gurukula system is the medicine for the ills in education today. Om Shri Mahaperiva Sharanam.